Hi, good afternoon students and welcome to Bridge Course Biology class. And first of all, happy Nagar Panchami. I think all of you have celebrated Nagar Panchami since yesterday very well, along with the different kinds of sweets. And we are in the continuation with the tissue concept, plant and animal tissues. And we are nearer to the end of that plant tissue concept. And yesterday I asked a question related to the difference between the monocot leaf and the dicot leaf. I asked many students to write the differences in the form of table and send to me. Then many students have sent their answers as usual. What names I mentioned yesterday, so all their students, so they are the strict followers of homework. I think those followers. So they have sent their answers very well. And along with the newcomers, few mentions if I want to mention their means, Bhavana, then Ningonda, then Sunil. So these newcomers also, they have sent their answers very well, very beautifully they have written. If you want to discuss on that concept, that is monocot and dicot leaf differences, so one keep on thing in your mind, already you know that one. If you want to consider monocot and dicot, majorly cot means cotyledon. Yes, the cotyledon of seed. So here the monocot plants producing seeds are having just one cotyledon, and dicot plants, if you consider, those seeds will be having two cotyledons, right? Say for example rice, wheat, chia, maize. So all those seeds, if we consider, if we take, say for example, the rice seed, if I take the rice seed and crush, means it will be converted into powder. Or if I apply a little some amount of optimum pressure on the rice seed, so it cannot divide it into two exact pieces. That means we cannot get two exact pieces. But as in case of groundnut, if I apply optimum pressure on the groundnut seed, I can get two equal pieces. That means it is made up of two cotyledons. So like that we can divide monocot and dicot. So yesterday I asked a question, write the differences between monocot leaf and a dicot leaf. Yes, the thing is, monocot leaves are isobilateral leaves. That is one thing. Keep this thing in your mind. Isobilateral leaf. Dicot leaves are dorsiventral leaves. Once again, monocot leaves are isobilateral leaves. Dicot leaves are dorsiventral leaves. What it indicates? Iso means same, bi means two, lateral means side. Combine all the terms. Iso, bi, lateral. That means both the sides of the leaves are same. Same in what sense? Greenish color. So here monocot leaves, say for example, consider my hand itself as a leaf. So this is the leaf one side and this is leaf one side, another side. So two sides are present here. And if you observe monocot leaf, so both the sides greenish color is equally green, both the side, isobilateral leaf. But in case of dicot leaf, if I consider, I will call the dicot leaf as a dorsiventral leaf. That means dorsal side and ventral side greenish coloration is in a different pattern. That means one side it is very dark green, one side light green. Hence it is considered to be the dorsiventral leaf. First difference. Second one, monocot leaves. In the leaf, of course, we will see the lines in the leaves. The major thick line we will call it as a midrib, and the next lines we will call them as veins. Right? So in a monocot leaf, so we will see the parallel venation. That means all the lines in the leaf are parallelly arranged. But in case of dicot leaf, so those are arranged a little bit in the perpendicular manner. We will call it as a reticulate venation. Dicot leaf reticulate venation, monocot leaf parallel venation. Third difference, in the case of a monocot leaf, if you observe, both the sides of the leaves are equally exposed to the sunlight. Say for example, imagine from that side sunlight is coming right now. Now this is the leaf. This surface and this surface, both the surfaces are equally exposed to the sunlight. But in case of dicot leaf, one surface is majorly exposed to the sunlight, another downside surface, it will not usually exposed to the sunlight. It will be always a downside. So the surface which is exposed to downside, that is to the sunlight, that surface is very dark green in color as compared to downside surface. This is a dorsal surface and this is ventral surface. So dorsal surface is more greenish in color compared to the this side. But there both the surface equally exposed to the sunlight. And the thing is, I said both the side the leaf is equally green, means why? Because both the sides equally exposed to the sunlight. This is dorsal side more green, ventral side light green, means dorsal side it is majorly exposed to the sunlight. Or keep this thing in your mind, the surface of the leaf which is majorly exposed to the sunlight, that portion will be more darker green. Why? The reason is, the surface which is exposed to the sunlight majorly, that surface it is majorly performing photosynthesis process by absorbing the sunlight. So when it is performing photosynthesis, quantity of chlorophyll content or the quantity of chloroplast is more in these upper cells compared to this side cells. So that is another reason. But there chloroplast distribution is equal in both the sides of the cells. That is in case of monocot leaf. And the next one, yesterday I used a term stomata. Stomata means small pores present on the surface of the leaf. So they help in the exchange of the gases, and one more thing, they help in the transpiration process. That means the removal of extra water content through the those pores in the form of vapors. Transpiration process. Just like our perspiration. ಬೆವರೋದು, ನಾವು ಹೇಗೆ ಬೆವರ್ತೀವೋ ಲೀವ್ಸ್ದಲ್ಲಿ ಪರ್ಸ್ಪಿರೇಷನ್ ಆಗೋ ಬದಲಾಗಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪಿರೇಷನ್ ಆಗೋದಂತ. ಸೊ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪಿರೇಷನ್ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ ಆಕರ್ಸ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ರೆಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಸ್ಟೊಮಾಟಾ, ರೈಟ್? ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಸ್ಟೊಮಾಟಾ ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಈಸ್ ಈಕ್ವಲ್, ಬೋತ್ ದ ಸೈಡ್ಸ್ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ಇನ್ ಕೇಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೊನೋಕಾಟ್ ಲೀಫ್. But in case of dicot leaf, I said a dorsal side directly exposed to the sunlight. Here number of stomata less, here number of stomata more. That means unequal distribution of stomata. And along with that one, slight major difference is, usually dicot leaf if we consider, they will be having more diameter at the center, dicot leaf. But in case of monocot leaf, they will be having they will be having longitudinal condition or that arrangement. The leaf structure is longitudinal and the diameter is usually normal constant in the leaf. So this is the thing, and apart from this many other differences we can have. So these are the major differences. And one more thing, inside the leaf if you want to look at, again we can get many differences, but here I am saying you just the brief morphological differences, monocot leaf and dicot leaf, right? Yes, coming to the interesting point of this session. So as yesterday Megha Havrige asked a question related to the that is how the snake can listen the sounds that are produced surrounding. So like that today one more student asked a question, so video question, and his name is Suhas Reshme from Ilkal. He asked a question. So first let's see the question, what is that question, and let's have the discussion on that question. See the question first.
Good evening, sir. I am Suhas Reshme from Ilkal. Sir, here my question is that, sir, why do we get dizzy? D-I-Z-Z-Y, sir. Thank you, sir. This is my question.
Yes, thank you. So what is the Suhas question here? He is asking the question that what is the reason for the dizziness? Dizziness ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ತಲೆ ಸುತ್ತೋದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. ತಲೆ ಸುತ್ತೋದು ಯಾಕೆ? What is the reason for the dizziness? And keep one thing in your mind, all we have experienced that dizziness in our life. So most of the times we have experienced this one, but even though we are healthy at that time, even though we will be healthy, we have felt this dizziness at some times. That means for the dizziness there is not a particular reason, there are so many reasons for the dizziness. And particularly thanks to Suhas for asking this kind of question. So there are a lot of reasons for the dizziness. So one thing, dizziness means something we feel. Suppose if you want to consider the symptoms of the dizziness, how we can feel that the dizziness means, so we feel our head is very heavy at that time. so heavy headness, or sometimes so we feel that our surrounding, whatever the surrounding is there to us, or our body itself, it will feel, we feel the body is spinning or rotating or moving without our control, or the surrounding, we feel the surrounding materials are rotating or spinning, so unusually we will feel like that. Or sometimes we will feel because of the dizziness we can feel a slight pain in our eyes or in our ears. So many other symptoms we can get here. These are the major symptoms when we are feeling the headache, dizziness, right? And here, if you want to calculate the, if you want to count all the reasons for the dizziness, there are so many reasons. The first foremost important reason is that so our lifestyle. So if our lifestyle is having so many complications, and if you are leading a life with anxiety, excitement, so many excitement, or if you are having the stress in our life daily, so at that time, so at one point of our daily life we may feel the dizziness, we may feel our head is filled with a very high weight sometimes. So that might be the common reason. And other reason is that if you are having the environment which is having the carbon monoxide concentration more, then also it may leads to the dizziness. Carbon monoxide, CO. Not only carbon monoxide, even carbon dioxide also responsible for the dizziness if its concentration is more than the usual concentration, then also it may leads to the dizziness. Most of you have experienced that one when we are traveling in the bus. So if all the windows get closed, so at one point of our traveling we may feel dizziness, and that dizziness may lead to the vomiting, right? Why it happens so means, in the bus so many members are there and the area of the bus is less, so many members are sitting in the bus, area is less, so at that time this respiratory gas what they are releasing, carbon dioxide, it get accumulated in the bus, its concentration will be more than the usual concentration. Then that concentration of higher concentration of carbon dioxide or sometimes carbon monoxide, that may affect on our brain, that leads to the dizziness, right? And another reason is low sugar content in the blood, hypoglycemia, we'll call it as hypoglycemia. There are two conditions, hyperglycemia, hypoglycemia. Hyper means more sugar level in the blood, diabetes condition. Hypoglycemia means less sugar level in the blood, and that condition may arise in some patients usually who are taking insulin injection for diabetic patients. When they are taking insulin injection more, at one point the sugar level get decreased suddenly. When sugar level is less in the blood, then it may leads to the dizziness, right? Even when the oxygen level is less in the blood, that may also lead to the dizziness. And here if you are taking more amount of drugs in the sense tablets, more quantity of tablets if you are taking in your daily life, that may also lead to the dizziness. Apart from this, we are having so many other things also for the dizziness. And the major problem of the dizziness is concerned to our inner ear. Right now what ear we are seeing right now, this is the external ear pinna. We are having three divisions in the ear: external ear, middle ear, inner ear. External ear, this is the ear pinna, major portion. Middle ear, that is the small inside, and one more major portion is inner ear, that is inner side. Imagine eyes, what I am having right now, eyes back side, inner side here. I can locate the inner ear here. This portion inner ear is present, right? That inner ear, if it is having any problems or any problems concerned with the inner ear, that may leads to the dizziness. Why? Because inner ear, it is majorly filled with the lymph content. So if anything disturbed in that lymph content, cochlea, there is one coiled structure, we will call it as cochlea. If there anything disturbed in the cochlea, then it may leads to the dizziness, right? That means inner ear majorly concerned to the dizziness. So for that one, the best example, generally I am talking you. Now ಚಿಕ್ಕವರಿದ್ದಾಗ ಕೈನ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಚ್ ಮಾಡಿ ತಿರುಗ್ತಿದ್ವಿ, ಸ್ಪಿನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ವಿ, ರೊಟೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ವಿ, ಕೈ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಮಾಡಿ ರೊಟೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋತಿದ್ವಿ ಚಿಕ್ಕವರಿದ್ದಾಗ. ನಮ್ಮ ಆಡು ಭಾಷೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಂತಂದರೆ ಗಿಮ್ಮಿ ತಿರುಗ್ತಿದ್ವಿ, ಕೈ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಹಿಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಗಿಮ್ಮಿ ತಿರುಗ್ತಿದ್ವಿ. ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಸರ್ಟನ್ ಟೈಮ್ after that rotation we used to feel light dizziness, right? And we used to literally observe our entire surrounding was spinning and moving, rotating imbalancedly. So that is the majorly because something get disturbed in the inner ear, right? Then what is the work of inner ear? Inner ear work is feeling the gravitation and adjusting that gravitation to our body, and it will sense the back and front movement of our body. If something get disturbed, then our gravitational, that response of our body to the gravitational force that get imbalanced, we feel that. So at that moment our body start imbalancing. At one point we may fall because of this dizziness. That means inner ear is more responsible for that. So any infection related to the inner ear, that may lead to the dizziness. And along with that one also, suppose if you are having the sensory problems, sensory organs problems, say for example nose problems, particularly mind problem I am saying about. So if you are having the some problems just like a sinus problem, so here is the cavity, here is a small cavity, gap is there, in the gap a mucus content get deposited, here also gap is there, sinus cavity will call them as. So from here position, this here up to here we are having the cavity, through the cavity the mucus get deposited. If the lot amount of mucus get deposited, if the sinus cavity get filled, then also it may affect our brain activity and lead to the slight dizziness, right? So in that sense we are having so many causes for this dizziness. And thank you Suhas for asking this question. And again, if you are having this kind of any interesting questions that you are getting in your mind, so please make one video, and that video should be within 10 or 15 seconds maximum. So ask that question and send it to me. So interesting question get discussed in the next class. Yes, thank you. So coming to our chapter tissues. Yes, yesterday we observed the tissues, majorly the meristematic tissue types, and in the permanent tissue we observed the simple permanent tissue, parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. All these are the simple permanent tissue. Why? Because those tissues is individually made up of single type of cells. Parenchyma usually present in the short parts, and usually that parenchyma, if we consider, it helps in photosynthesis. Sclerenchyma, it helps in the plotting of organs. Arenchyma, or it may cover the entire organism body, plant body, in the form of epidermis. So other works it is having, and it is having the gaps of spores called as stomata. Then we observe the collenchyma, living mechanical tissue, sclerenchyma, dead mechanical tissue, right? So those are the simple permanent tissues. These simple permanent tissues together form next one, complex permanent tissue. Yes. So if we consider the complex permanent tissue, it is made up of more than one type of simple permanent tissues. There the major complex permanent tissues of plant are, one is xylem and the second one is phloem. Xylem and phloem. So these are the complex permanent tissues, and here the xylem is considered to be the water conducting tissue, and phloem is considered to be the food conducting tissue. Yes. So here both are complex permanent tissues, and xylem and phloem together we will call them as vascular tissues. So both are considered to be the vascular tissues or conducting tissues. In our body also we are having one vascular tissue. What is that vascular tissue? Of our body. Yes, special tissue, that is, yes, blood. So blood is our vascular tissue, and here xylem and phloem are The plant body is vascular tissue. How the blood is our vascular tissue means blood is not a solid tissue, it is a liquid tissue, it is a fluid tissue which is continuously circulating throughout the body. When it is moving, when it is transferring, it will transport different kinds of materials, food material, digested food material, hormones, enzymes, oxygen, carbon dioxide, antibodies, waste materials. So many, all the different kinds of materials it is transferring from one place to another place. So because of that reason, blood is considered to be the vascular tissue, and here that work done by xylem and phloem. They are transferring water and food materials from place to place. And here if it starts from the xylem, its work starts from the root. So as already we know, why? Because its work is conducting the water, transferring the water. So the water get absorbed by the root or root hairs. When it is absorbing the water, along with the water it will absorb minerals also. Water plus minerals. Mineral is nothing but the food for the plant to convert it in the glucose form. Majorly minerals are absorbed for different activities. So water having dissolved minerals get absorbed by the root, and inside the root this pipe like structure is present, xylem. So xylem will absorb majorly water, dissolved water, that is having the minerals, and that absorbed water it will move in the upper direction, right? It will move in the upper direction and sent to all parts of the plant body. So for example, imagine yes, and let us consider these are the roots of the plant. So roots of the plant, now they are absorbing yes, so they will absorb the water, right? So inside a xylem pipe is there. So imagine that is a pipe like structure actually, but a very thin pipe like structure, and that water will move through the stem and to all parts of the body, all branches, all the leaves, flowers, fruits, whatever it might be. Now imagine, so that water comes to the leaf, and imagine in the leaf there is a midline here. We will call it as a midrib. Midrib means main pipe like structure. That midrib divided into veins. Through the veins and midrib, water gets supplied throughout all portions of the plant leaf, and leaf is directly exposed to the sunlight. Imagine here it is exposed to the sunlight, and now the sunlight is coming over here and it is falling on the surface of the leaf. That sunlight get absorbed by the leaf, and already water is there, and also it will absorb the carbon dioxide. So all together combinedly it will produce the glucose. Photosynthesis occurs. Now water is supplying from downside here along with the dissolved minerals. So this is the thing, and same water will be going to all other body parts. Now the question will be arise, once if the water is moving here, in which direction water is moving here? Upper direction. If once the water is moving to the upper direction, if water used by this portion is over and still large amount of water if it is remain, means that excess amount of water cannot come downside. How much water it may go outside upper side, that excess amount of water after the use it cannot come downside. That means if the water is excess here, then that water will move outside in the form of transpiration. It will not come downside again. So what it indicates, always a xylem movement, that is movement of water is upper side, that is to one direction, that means unidirectional. Xylem movement is unidirectional, that is movement of water. Okay, now the leaf is going to produce the food. Imagine the leaf is producing the food. What is that food? That food is glucose. Yes, now the leaf has produced the glucose, Now the produced food should be supplied to all parts of the plant body. Why? Because all the parts of the plant body need glucose for the energy. Now this energy, this glucose, it will pass to upper parts as well as lower parts. So what it indicates here, the phloem direction is bidirectional. Phloem is bidirectional. Or we will refer it as a multi-directional. In all the direction food is going, but always water is going in upper direction only. And if the side branches are there, means side branches to that branches the water will be given, but it will not come, it will not come downside. So phloem direction is bidirectional here, right? Now if we consider both the tissues are considered to be the vascular tissues. If the plants having the vascular tissues, those plants will call them as tracheophytes. Tracheophytes means the plants which are having a xylem and phloem. Usually lower plants are not having the xylem and phloem. For example, algae it is a plant, but it is not having the xylem and phloem. Bryophytes, those are also not having the xylem and phloem. Such kind of the plants which are having xylem and phloem are called as tracheophytes. So coming to our xylem here, okay, let me rub this one. Yes, if we consider the first one, xylem, imagine it's a very thin small pipe like structure. Xylem, very thin small pipe like structure. Imagine syringe, injecting syringe, through the syringe the fluid is coming, that means injection fluid is coming and entering our blood veins, right? In the same way, it is a very thin pipe like structure, through that water is moving along with the minerals. So this xylem, it is made of four components. The first one is xylem parenchyma, the first one, that means parenchyma tissue present in the xylem. And the second one is, okay, not to write this one, second one is tracheids, and third one is vessels, and a fourth one is xylem fibers. These are the four components, four types of tissues helping for the construction of a xylem pipe for conduction of water. So here xylem parenchyma, tracheids, vessels and fibers, among these four they are all coordinatedly form that pipe. So here especially these two, tracheids and vessels, these are actually water conducting parts. They are actually conducting water, not the parenchyma and fibers, but parenchyma and fibers just support that structure. So tracheids and vessels will conduct the water actually. In which direction? Upward direction. And here xylem parenchyma, as already I have told you, it will store the food material. Here its work is storing of food material, and it is present surrounding to the tracheids and vessels. And xylem fibers, this is also a major one. So xylem fiber means sclerenchyma fiber. Sclerenchyma cell present in the thread like structure, fiber like structure. What about the sclerenchyma cells, living or dead? Yes, so those cells are dead cells. Dead fibers are protecting all the structures together. That means it is giving mechanical support. So here out of four components, xylem parenchyma is a living, right? It is living. Tracheids are dead cells, vessels are dead cells, fibers are also dead cells. Three are dead cells and only the living cell is parenchyma here. That means majorly we will consider xylem as a dead tissue. So this is the thing here. And in the same way, if we consider Okay, the second one, phloem. So phloem, as already we know, this is the food conducting tissue, small pipe like structure just like xylem, and it is moving in it is transferring the food materials in multi direction, all directions. And keep one thing in your mind, wherever xylem will be there, adjacent to the xylem there will be phloem, or wherever the phloem will be there, adjacent to the phloem there will be xylem, both will move together. So this phloem, it is made up of, as usual, 4 components. The first one is phloem parenchyma, just like xylem parenchyma, and the second one is sieve tube cell, or will sometimes we'll refer them as sieve cells in case of gymnosperm. So here in case of angiosperm I am talking about, that means flowering plants. Third one is companion cell, and the fourth one is, as usual, phloem fibers, right? So these are the 4 components, but here actually the food is conducted by this sieve tube cell. So this is the conducting cell, food conducting cell. Actually it is conducting the food, not other cells. And the conduction of the food through the sieve tube cell. Sieve means porous structure. ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಣಿಗೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. ಸಾಣಿಗೆ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಹೋಲ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ತವೋ ಆ ರೀತಿ ಆ ಸೆಲ್ದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಲ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. But cell is present in the tube form, sieve tube cell. Through the sieve tube cell the food is conducting, and the conduction is controlled by companion cell. So it is controlling this sieve tube cell. And as usual that food gets stored here in the parenchyma, and fibers work as usual, giving the mechanical support. And here the slight difference. So as usual this parenchyma is in the living condition, sieve tube cells they are in the living condition, companion cell in the living condition, and fibers they are in the dead condition. That means 3 components are living, 1 component is dead. That means majority of components are living. So because of that reason we will consider phloem as a living tissue as compared to xylem. It is a living, and usually we will consider that one as a dead tissue when it get matured. So like that we are having a xylem and a phloem, they are moving together. So their work is conduction of water and food majorly. And imagine just if you are having one building, yes, 3 floors or 4 floors one building is there, right? Building top we are having syntax, some syntax we have fixed there, water syntax. So at the bottom of the building we are having the water, that water should be lifted to the syntax. We have to fill the syntax which is present at the top of the building, and the building is having 4 floors. To that height that we have to lift the water. Then what we will use? We will use the electrical energy in the form of electrical motor. We will pump the water. In the same way we can see some plants. Some plants may be having the height equal to the 10 floor buildings height, 20 floor buildings height. Such kind of huge plants we are having, and to the top of the plant continuously water should be moving, water should be lifted. Then who will lift the water? Here of course we are having the electrical motor, we will pump the water by using that energy. Of course if the water present at upper side, if the water present at the top region, it can immediately come to the downer side without energy. But if you want to make the water to send to the upper side, we need to give the energy, right? Then who is giving, what is the electrical pump like structure present in the plant to lift the water to such height? Yes, this is my tomorrow's question. Think on this question. My question once again I am repeating you. What is the force or what is the energy to pump the water from the root to the top of the plant? For if the plant is very high, then how the water is moving in the upward direction without electrical energy? through the xylem. So this is the question. Think on this question and write your answer and send it to my number. And again, if you are having any interesting question, make one video of that question and send to my number, and let's have the discussion on that same question tomorrow. Right? Thank you.